Hi, my name is John Pennington. This episode is entitled Adding to the Bible. And if you're a good scriptorian, or if you've read the Bible many times, you know of a famous scripture in the book of Revelation. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. Revelation chapter 22, verse 18. I love the way John the Apostle writes. He always gives you ways to break down the sentence and ways to analyze the actual doctrine that's been taught. So if you remember, if anyone adds to the book, the plagues of this book will be added unto him. So therefore, to determine if someone ever added to the Bible, you could look for plagues as evidence that they added to the Bible. One person in U.S. history that I think does not get a fair shake on this subject is a man named Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith is the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the reason he gets accused of adding to the Bible, because he published a book in the early 1800s that claimed that Jesus Christ, after he was resurrected, somehow traveled to the Americas and taught the people in Americas about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Joseph Smith published it. And many people claim that this is adding to the Bible. So I like to analyze the scriptures. I like to test things. And so if anyone comes to me holding the Bible in their hand and saying, listen, I read this scripture and this is my interpretation, I typically like to take that interpretation and work it backwards. So in this instance, I took the history books and I looked up Joseph Smith and anything that happened to him in his lifetime that could have been considered a plague. And I couldn't find anything in the history books. Now, Joseph Smith was killed by a man with a gun in a mob. There was a mob of men with a bunch of guns and they killed Joseph Smith. And many people claim that this is Joseph Smith's plague. The simple problem with this is plagues are not man-made. If anyone argues with you that a man with a gun is a plague from God, I think they're going to have a tough time with their credibility as they try to fortify that position. Because there's no definition anywhere that says that a plague is man-made. In contrary, man-made things can't be plagues. Plagues are from God, and that's by definition. So I kept looking because I didn't want to just stop there. And I looked at anything that could be considered a plague, even by the people who followed Joseph Smith. And I did find one thing. After Joseph Smith was shot and killed in 1844, his followers, with a guy named Brigham Young, had to leave the United States of America because of religious persecution. In fact, they had to cross the Mississippi River one very, very cold night. It was so cold that the Mississippi River froze solid, and they had to walk across the Mississippi River. And they traveled west out to a place that's today called Utah. This is in the year 1847. Well, they planted their crops, and the next year in 1848, their new crops were coming in. And there was this plague of crickets that came across the valley and started eating their new crops. And I thought, aha, here's a plague. This is definitely a plague from God. However, what happened next is miraculous. Flocks of seagulls fly in. They land, they start eating all the crickets. And some journals tell us that some of these seagulls would eat so many crickets and go over and throw up, empty their stomachs, and come back and eat more crickets. The seagulls saved the crops. And as you can imagine, being a pioneer, for their first year out in the wilderness, the crops were very, very important to them. So in reality, this plague that I thought was a plague actually became a miracle. And when Utah finally became a state of the Union, they named their state bird the seagull. And it's still referred today as the Seagull Miracle. A landlocked state has their state bird as the seagull, which is very odd. But that's how it came to be, because the seagulls saved their crops, the first pioneers that came out to the West in 1847 and 1848. So again, I couldn't find a plague that associated with Joseph Smith or the people that followed him and his teachings. Therefore, my conclusion was this: if no plagues ever hit Joseph Smith or his people, then he certainly didn't add to the Bible. Because I believe the Bible is true, you believe the Bible is true. And if anyone ever does add to the Bible, then plagues will surely hit them. But since no plagues actually hit Joseph Smith or his people, my own conclusion is he is erroneously accused of adding to the Bible, because the definition of adding to the Bible is given to us from the Apostle John, a man who walked in the footsteps and shadows of Jesus Christ. Now, that's our episode today about adding to the Bible, and thanks for tuning in. Listen, we have no idea if you like these presentations or not. The people behind the cameras here that put on all these and post them to the web, it's a lot of work. The only way we know if you like these or not is if you subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. My name is John S. Pennington Jr. You can find us on www.johnspenningtonjr.com. Thanks for tuning in.